We are entering into the session 1B according to the program entitled Cultural Heritage Theological Approaches. Coordinator of this session is Dr. Konstantinos Kalemis. Konstantinos Kalemis is a member of the teaching register at the National Center for Public Administration and Local Governance in the scientific fields of law, social and political sciences, and adult education, and in the following fields of study: political and administrative organization of the public sector, theories and approaches of the adult education, research, design, evaluation of educational programs, and organization and management of education. He is a certified trainer of CertiProf professional certifications in skills, remote work professional certification, Microsoft Dynamics Academy, digital marketing professional certificate, business model Canvas essential professional certification, Scrum Foundation professional certification, lifelong learning. His interests focus on the introduction of new technologies as an alternative teaching process, and the design and evaluation of new curricula designs for open and distance education. Dr. Kalemis, you have the speech, the floor.
Yes, I do appreciate your kind introduction. I also welcome all the speakers to my session, and I wish the very best for the success to our conference. As the first part, I would like to welcome Dr. Christina Anagnostopoulou. She is going to give us a nice speech entitled Cultural and Historical Heritage Protection, ICT and AR Applications in Greece. Ms. Anagnostopoulou is a senior researcher in ICCS of ENTOA, with extensive studies in the University of Tokyo. And at the moment, she is very active in research and development in the areas of transport, environment, and application of innovative technologies in several areas and cultural aspects. Dr. Anagnostopoulou, the floor is yours. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning from my side. I hope you can hear me all very well. Thank you for the introduction and also for the invitation to this conference. Hopefully, I will be able to contribute to the interesting discussions. I'm going to start sharing my screen so that you can all see my presentation. Give me a few seconds until this is synced. Okay, I hope you are all able to see this. So, I'm Christina Anagnostopoulou. I'm a senior researcher in ICCS. And let me also spend one slide here to introduce you our team. ICCS is the research branch of the School of Electrical and Computer Engineering that belongs to the National Technical University of Athens. It is one of the top 3 research institutions in Greece and among the first 20 in Europe, with extensive EU and national projects and research funding, and more than 800 plus researchers in its teams. And it also is greatly involved in transferring knowledge to the market through recently having more than 6 spin-offs and cluster participation. One of the research teams within ICCS is my research group, iSense Group, that we're also a quite large group that we are involved in different cross-cutting thematic teams. And these are more than 10. And one of these are exactly focusing on extended reality with applications in culture. So this is what I'm going to be talking to you today. The possibilities that are opened by the digital technologies are very great and impressive. And from the 3D technologies, artificial intelligence, virtual augmented reality, the concepts of virtual museums, are these a set of technologies that are being adopted and developed in order to ensure preservation and conservation of the cultural heritage. And it's been really an explosion in the last 20 years of these digital innovations. And other technologies could include gamification, digital restoration, social networks, use of information systems and IoT networks, different web technologies, and also 3D digital technologies like 3D modeling, 3D scanning, 3D visualization that are getting widely used in preservation of the material cultural heritage and are being applied in different types like castles, churches, sculptures, archaeological sites, and others. Now, focusing on the augmented reality technology and applications, these are really used to elevate the engagement of the citizens, so promote community engagement, used as crowdsourcing tools, but also create the environment, an interactive environment in a way to redefine the way that citizens are experiencing these cultural monuments. So these are tools that are very easy and simple to use, easy to customize for the content. They have embedded sensors like motion, position, and orientation. They're easily adapted to user, so it can be interacted via haptics or manipulation. It includes social media interaction, badges, leaderboards, virtual assistants, and it also are supported by educative mechanisms for collection of data, reporting, and educational content. So through 3D content storytelling, through embedded navigation and object detection, AR campaigns are being used to provide this type of localized and personalized and accessible experience to everybody. Now, European Union and the Commission are putting a lot of effort and stress towards preserving and protecting the cultural heritage under especially the framework programs of Horizon 2020 and Horizon Europe and Cluster 2. There is specific funding stream to culture. And approximately the numbers are great. There are like in the first 2 years of the programs, almost 150 million euros have been allocated towards the cultural heritage. And there is also a report of all the projects that have been successful at the first year of the framework of Horizon Europe. And this is exactly what I will be talking about, is to present to you two of our emblematic projects on using augmented reality technology for the digital heritage. And this will be two projects, one coming from a national framework from the National Recovery and Resilience Plans Greece 2.0, which is funded from the European Union and Next Generation EU, that is using AR, VR, and 3D modeling applications for creating tours and 3D models for specific monuments and the demonstration sites, as well as another project, Stetida, that is also a Horizon Europe funded project, of which our team is coordinating. And this is specifically targeting underwater and coastal heritage risk assessment and protection systems, and is also employing different underwater and offshore sensors, autonomous underwater vehicle, 3D modeling, crowdsourcing applications, and also participatory processes and co-creation approaches through living labs and linking social innovation. So moving to the first project, Obscene. UPSIM includes 6 different partners and focuses on 3 archaeological sites in Greece: Dion, Delos, and the Epigraphic Museum of Athens, which is actually one museum. So it is using augmented reality and virtual reality applications in order to create these AR tours, and it's using 3D modeling to create the models, the virtual digital models of these monuments. This is a project that is finishing this year, and it will also have its final event in the Epigraphic Museum of Athens by the end of the year. So feel free to connect further with us in order to be able to participate in this event and learn more about the project. So it has completed these 3 use cases. And these are the pilot cases of the 2 archaeological sites in the 1 museum, as we referred. The technologies that have been used include AR Core, AR Kit, which is supporting the augmented reality for the mobile services, and extended reality interaction toolkit to support virtual reality for the head-mounted displays, and 3D modeling to reconstruct the monuments that are no longer exist. So we have Delos Island, here the Athenian Temple of Apollo, the Propylaea, and the House of the Nexians that have been reconstructed digitally. In Dion, the Episcopal Basilica, which is a 5th century church, has been also reconstructed digitally to showcase the design and the historical context. And the Epigraphic Museum of Athens, which contains an inscription of Philos arsenal. And based on the inscription and with the guidance from the archaeologist, the building was modeled and displayed in the application, being able for the user to see the original structure and learn more about its purpose. So through the augmented reality, there are the 3D models of the monuments that are being showcased in the original states directly on site. So this is overlaid on the remaining ruins. The application has several user-friendly features. Ne? Is it okay if I continue? Okay, so
yes, you can continue.
Okay, perfect.
Please complete the presentation. Yes.
Yes. The application has several user-friendly features. It is easily accessible from a smartphone. It utilizes also various sensors and incorporates an AR camera functionality. And there is also a user interface that is very adaptable and intuitive, and includes also some gamification elements and educational mechanism to enhance the user engagement. This is also accompanied by pictures, actual screenshots of the pilot activities that are depicting the Temple of Apollo in Delos and the Episcopal Basilica in Dion. I want to present in my next slide a video. I hope it's...
Okay.
I will just describe that the video is the actual footage from the application, the virtual reality application that has been developed. This is through a head-mounted display, and it's providing the exact view of what users would experience inside a virtual tour of the monument. So this is an immersive environment, and users are able to move freely within this virtual archaeological site, explore the monument as it's reconstructed without any restrictions in the accessibility. So there are different points of interest and information that is provided by the archaeologists that are used during the tour to enhance the experience. And this in the end becomes more engaging and interactive for the users. So I think this is quite impressive, as you're all able to see within this small video. This now gives the floor to our next project. So as we've seen how the application of such technologies is happening for our national monuments, now we are moving to a European, let's say, project that also includes Greek pilots. And this is now aiming at safeguarding and protecting the coastal, but also underwater cultural heritage, which is also pretty rare. And this is the FETIDA project that has 7 different pilot sites across Europe. There are 2 underwater sites in Italy and in Cyprus that are shipwrecks and an airplane that is underwater, and the 3 coastal sites in Netherlands, in Norway, and in Mykonos Castle in Greece. So here it's focusing on the main climatic risks and natural hazards that are threatening these sites. That could be from erosion, from heat, earthquakes, the influence from people, flooding, salinization of soil for the coastal sites, temperature, water pollution, any type of human activities that are concerning the coastal and the underwater cultural heritage, and is targeting to prevent the damages and also identify the threats, but also promote policy for the coastal areas. So, following a holistic approach.
Excuse me, 2 more minutes, please.
Okay, so the approach is based on 5 pillars. So it is using advanced sensing tools for assessing the risks and getting the necessary information and data. Then doing underwater mapping. So using autonomous underwater vehicles for performing these operations, using techniques, imaging techniques in order to make restoration procedures and support diagnosis and decision-making process, creating the analysis of all this information with the incorporation of 3D images, and of course, being able to involve citizens in and citizen science data for better information and for being able to support prediction models. I'll just use a couple of slides to showcase these technologies that are being used. This is a part of Earth observation surveys that are being deployed in order to assess the coastline changes. And this is an example for the Mykonos Castle pilot sites that is used to see the differences between 1984 and 2023 and to determine the erosion rate and on the coastal site. Another part has to do with in situ sensors, and this is an autonomous smart buoy that is equipped with environmental sensors in order to be able to do data acquisition. This was deployed. This is actually fully functional as we speak. And there is also extends, I think also there is a video that you can see in parallel. There are extensive diving activities in the project that are being carried out in order to map underwater heritage sites. There is a team of specialized divers that are collecting data and shooting pictures and videos of these sites. So this is going to support further mapping and acquisition of data in order to do also, as you can see, the 3D documentation of the shipwreck, as you can see in the pictures on the bottom below that have been already reconstructed. This is the example of the crowdsourcing mobile application. This is used as an augmented reality applications for end users. It has also 3D models of the ICWA shipwreck that have been developed and a 3D representation of the coastal erosion risk in Norway. And this is also used for content owners and pilot leaders for the curation of campaigns and storylines. And the last part is just to showcase how the analysis of these materials are being done with developed deterioration modules for the evaluation of the effect of the climate change. One final note from our side is that this is an approach that is a collective effort. So along with three other projects, SETI are creating the EU Green Cluster on Cultural Heritage. And this is also the efforts from EU in order to bring together all these actors that are involved in this type of projects in order to promote the solutions, but also share best practices and give feedback to the policymakers. And we are very proud that SETI as a project is also participating in these efforts. Thank you very much. I hope I was on time. Please feel free to ask me any type of questions that you might have at the end of this session. Thank you very much.
We do thank you, Dr. Anastapoulou. Quite interesting and impressive your presentation. Very interesting, all the topics. And yes, you are in time, no problem. Now we can proceed to the next speaker, to Archimedes Aristarchos Vasilios Grekas. He is an associate professor of the National and Kapodistan University of Athens in the Department of Theology. He has impressive studies at Georgetown University and Harvard University in USA, publisher of 9 books and plenty of articles in journals in Greek and English language with theoretical content and in international relations. He is organizer and participator as a speaker in many international conferences and workshops. He's going to present us his work, Orthodox Spirituality in the New Era. Archimedes Aristarchos, the floor is yours. We are very willing to hear you.
First of all, I want to thank for the participation in this interesting conference and this important initiative for Athens called Athens. So we'll start the basic characteristic of the modern international environment are the rapid changes in a globalized world with the contribution of communications, new technologies, and leap advancement of science. Economic influence is raising the bar of an authority competition at local, regional, and global levels, resulting in the emergence of new alliances. In any case, under these conditions, challenges appear on a spiritual and moral level. Challenges, however, are also perspectives for human politics, societies, and religion. Throughout time, as well as at the present, Orthodoxy identifies the emerging challenges concerning his relationship with his fellow humanity and God. At the same time, the prospects of Orthodoxy in the new era arise from the challenges. First, the first part is Orthodox traditional spirituality and value system. Policy. Throughout time, both empirically and theoretically, Orthodoxy has maintained a discrete stance in its relationship with politics, as the Church does not get involved in politics in the narrow sense of the term, but its witness has political characteristics as a concern for human and his intellectual freedom. Since the word of the Church as testimony has always been distinct and will remain an obligatory intervention in favor of human. The solidarity between Church and State consequently, with politics within the limits of saving the individuality of the church and the state, works through cooperation to protect and ensure the unique value of human, his right, and social justice. So, with its contemporary witness, Orthodoxy provides feedback to political thought and practice as a defender of the freedom of the person and a citizen of the world based on its tradition. The freedom of conscience in the light of the message of the gospel ensure the fundamental moral values in the modern world of secularization with a materialistic orientation. Orthodoxy and international relations. The Orthodox Church strongly commend the diverse conflicts and wars which are due to the fanaticism which derives from misinterpreted religious principles and causes violence and persecution of Christians or other communities because of their faith in the Middle East or anywhere else. At the same time, the Orthodox Church upholds and advocates its contribution to the maintenance of prevalence of peace by building an environment of condition of justice, fraternity, freedom, mutual love among the members of the human family throughout the world. In the face of conflicts, Orthodoxy supports sincerely the religious dialogue that contributes to the development of mutual trust by promoting peace, understanding the settlement within a view to the peace from above that is achieved on earth through brotherly love. Orthodoxy, expressed by many peoples of the earth, highlights the universal solidarity, the value of the human person, and promotes the prospect of collaboration between peoples and states towards the peaceful resolution of disputes. The local Orthodox Church works as God's fellow workers in the perspective of the religious understanding and cooperation with an emphasis to the peaceful coexistence and social cohesion of the people at the local, national, and international level, inviting every person for goodwill. God-centered and Christ-centered humanism and culture. The perspective of Orthodoxy in the modern world is additionally based on the timeless contribution to the abolition of racial discrimination and asserts that every human being is creating the image and likeness of God. Based on the creation of human by God in the image and likeness of God, the dignity of the human person is highlighted so that every person enjoys equal rights in society, regardless of color, religion, race, gender, nationality, or language. The requirements of politics in contemporary societies are the protection of the individual freedom on the basis of human rights. Orthodoxy identifies the tendency towards a liberalized identification of the individual with a distorted understanding of human rights, with the risks of the individual rights deteriorating into individualism and rightism. Instead of his interpretation, which is dangerous for human orthodoxy, prioritizes the ascetic character of the measures that reflects Christian ethics against the limitless eudaimonism and the individual combined with sacrificial love against the sterile individualism. For more specifically, in the Orthodox tradition, the principle about human is reflected on the image of the God-man as the ultimate measure of everything, as a response to the creation of the contemporary man-God. The God-man and the body emerged with the church as place of and way, freedom, truth, and love, with the participation of the resurrected Christ. So the perspective of Orthodoxy is based on the God-centered and Christ-centered humanism against the individual-centered humanism. Certainly, in today's reality, religious freedom are violated in several cases in the context of human rights. Orthodoxy traditionally respects the freedom of people and considers as a fundamental human right the protection of religious freedom with its manifestations, which derive from the freedom, conscience, faith, and worship. Moreover, it highlights the right of individual and collective expressions of religious freedom without any imposition of state intervention in the teaching and functioning of religious communities.
You have 2 more minutes, please.
2 more minutes, okay. I go to the conclusion. The Orthodox Church, based on its tradition, its theological and spiritual capital, comes to cover existential issues that modern human is called to face. The perspectives of Orthodoxy in the modern international environment derive from the principle of discernment, moderation, respect for the distinct roles with politics, its contribution to the formation of international relation, culture, science, and the protections of the environment. Through this mission, the Orthodox Church in the modern world, Orthodoxy comes to heal the spiritual impasse of modern civilization by building a God-centered humanism with love for life and fellow human. A God-centered culture is a relation to the value of the person as a member of civil society in a globalized world. This humanism, in the context of God's image and likeness, heralds the prospects of renegotiate men's self-awareness in view of the rapid and global changes and challenges of our time and future. Finally, Orthodox spirituality in the new era seeks to create a bridge between the rich heritage of church and the realities of modern life, is characterized by the harmonious blend of tradition and adaptation, allowing believers to navigate the complexities of contemporary life while remaining rooted in their faith. I don't explain more Orthodox approach to science or about the ecological consequences of Orthodoxy, but we summarize at the conclusion. Thank you very much.
We thank you for your nice presentations. It was quite interesting and quite impressive. All questions should be addressed in the end of our session. At the moment, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Zairis Adonis. Professor Zairis is a professor of business administration in Neapolis University in Paphos in Cyprus. He has served in many areas as managing director of sales in multinational companies and large Greek enterprises. At the moment, he's assistant professor in Neapolis University in Paphos and associate vice president of the board of directors of CELPE. Professor Zairis is going to give us a speech entitled New Cultural Background, a New Entrepreneurial Spirit in Retail, the Great Transformation. Professor Zairis, the floor is yours.
Okay, do you hear me well?
Yes, sir, quite clear.
Thank you very much. The subject is, thank you for the invitation, first of all. The subject is cultural background and entrepreneurial spirit in retail. Country's cultural background has always been negative to any entrepreneurship initiative. For example, in the case of retail, what prevailed as a confrontation between individual pursuit involving risk and risk-taking and state protection offering security and protection was
either the aversion to activity that involved business and the incrimination of profit, or the elevation of the retail job as a transitional phase with no prospects and no meaningful career path until a new job was found. In this way, Greek society has been grafted for many years with outdated concepts and ideological obstacles that crush individual initiative and individual interest on the altar of a flattening mentality regarding the values related to professional advancement in retailing, and an inertia that acquires collective characteristic and has a deeper impact on the specific components that make up the personality of the individual. The concept of risk is, of course, particularly important, as the attitude of the person exposed to different degrees of risk depends entirely on his personality, his ability to analyze the environment, his rational criteria for evaluating an event, his ability to formulate rational assumptions, and so on and so forth. Taking all this into account in combination with empirical knowledge, the risk-inducing event becomes obviously impaired and re-evaluating, and the benefits results of taking, for example, an entrepreneurial action prevail. Otherwise, the activation of individuals, even in everyday life, events that involve a low degree of risk, taking, for example, crossing a road with the risk of an accident, will remain inactive, and the individual will permanently seek a low risk and, of course, low reward in terms of achieving the outcome. The consumer revolution that took place in Great Britain in the 18th century, inextricably linked to the development of retailing, was a dynamic phenomenon with mass characteristics that brought about a series of institutional changes in the political social status quo of Western societies. The 19th century of our country is crucial due to the foundation of the Greek state, 1830, and the rapid changes that occurred in consumer preferences and the way of approaching commercial transactions. In this phase, the European value structure in Greece contributed greatly with romanticism and literally tendencies spreading to every expression of social life. So, from the Ottoman bazaar and the closed markets, we move on to the national liberation strength of 1821, the strengthening of the country's fabric and the improvement of infrastructure. However, after the occupation speculation in 1940, in the post-war period, the prevailing perception made business and the concept of profit a field of intense ideological confrontation and conflict, resulting in the state's wrong decision to take on an entrepreneur's role, planning and coordinating the functioning of economic life. In the last quarter of 20th century, however, private initiative is liberated and works wonders, while at the same time we are heading towards the new promising era of commercial consumption dominated by the shopping malls, stores, and the first shopping centers. The famous generation of the 30s is already leading the European trends. Retailing is evolving through various phases and operates on the basis of new standards imposed by the need to satisfy the demands of the modern consumer, which are met through constant negotiation and commercial transactions on the battlefield known as the retail store. A new high aesthetic is beginning to emerge, which is visible on the facade and shop windows of commercial stores, but also through product demonstration, for example, fashion shows aimed of attracting the existing and new highly demanding buying public. The emergence of individual initiatives' importance and the primacy of individualization over flattening uniformity and homogeneity brought a real revolution in entrepreneurship from the early 1980s. Modernizing concepts are prevailing, and the promotion of entrepreneurship's concept is accelerating rapidly in every form of organized society at local, regional, or global level. The onslaught of globalization has been a catalyst for that. It has broken the barrier of protectionist notions that kept societies in mediocrity and citizens hostage by providing them with a supposed livelihood safety net. So, if the cultural background of a society operates in conditions where the alignment of economy's productive factors is identical to that of the government's aspiration in terms of the desired outcome, which is the production of wealth and social welfare, then entrepreneurship is facilitated and developed and private initiative flourishes. In this context, retailing, the predominantly dynamic sector of the economy, is able to produce results and operate beneficially in growth and employment rates of our country as the four basic success factors that allow it to operate are fulfilled. Both are the responsibility of retailers' management. First, there is organization structure and flexible management to manipulate prices. And on the other hand, a strong perception concerning the facts of the day after. Second, there is a spirit of teamwork and collaborative thinking that enables commitment to target achievement. Third, there is a clear vision, mission, and value system that aligns with the retailer's culture. And fourth, there is a clear social footprint that is reflected to wider sections of society by the retailer's actions. The spirit of entrepreneurship in retail is in line with the cultural background of a society that carries practices of free, creative, and individualized action that are liberated, and in this way, risk is approached and managed more effectively in the changing production and consumption pattern that the new reality demands. Of course, finally, the way in which this new consumption pattern in retailing is served will also determine the degree to which it contributes to the economic growth of our country. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Έχει τα κλασικά, ας πούμε, και έχει και μερίδες.
Yes, Mr. Kalemis.
I'm here, but I just had a problem with my network. Something was stopped, completely blocked. I hope it's okay now. Hopefully.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
Thank you.
You can proceed. You can proceed.
Yes. I do apologize, but technology. So, welcome to our next speaker, Dr. Ziropoulou Konstantina, who is an assistant professor in the Department of Theater Studies in the University of Patras. Dr. Ziropoulou has extensive studies in the area. Her interest includes modern drama and theater, as well as the reception of ancient Greek drama in modern times. She has extensive experience working as a theater scientist in the Hellenic Theater Museum and Studies Center of the Greek Theater. She is at the moment professor in the University of Peloponnese, in Aristotelic University of Thessalonica, in the Hellenic Open University, and the Open University of Cyprus. She is going to give us a speech breaking boundaries, contemporary theater, and the fluidity of identity. Dr. Siropoulou, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kaleris. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the invitation, and I'm really happy to participate in this conference and share my thoughts with you. Let me share my PowerPoint. Okay. Can you see? Is it okay?
Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, today I will talk to you about theater in meta-society, and more specifically, I will focus on its role in exploring human identities through representative examples of dramatic texts, as well as various forms of theatrical activity. In the first part of my presentation, I will briefly examine how theater addresses questions of identity in an interconnected world and highlight some notable productions that engage with this theme. I will then shift my focus on an analysis of Robert Icke's play titled The Doctor, based on Professor Bernardi by Arthur Schnitzler. The play premiered in 2019 at London's Almeida Theatre and received excellent reviews from both critics and audiences. It was also performed in Athens last year, shaking things up in Greek theatre. Theatre has long served as a reflective mirror. Let me maximize it. Okay. Theatre has long served as a reflective mirror, capturing and challenging society's values, beliefs, and assumptions. In today's meta-society, defined as a global, interconnected network of communities and cultures, theatre's role has become even more crucial in the ongoing discourse on identity. As cultures intertwine, identity issues around race, gender, nationality, and belief systems become more complex and dynamic. The theatre, with its power to convey personal and collective narratives, provides a vital space for audiences to engage with, question, and better understand these evolving identities within the context of a meta-society. In particular, in meta-society, identity has become more fluid, influenced by global migration, digital interconnectedness, and exposure to diverse cultures. This society also implies a world where local communities and national identities are in constant interaction. With this blending of boundaries, individuals are increasingly confronted with questions about who they are, where they belong, and how their identities align with broader cultural narratives. Through theatrical performances, audiences witness diverse perspectives on identity, from stories of marginalized groups to explorations of hybrid identities, fostering empathy and understanding. The theater reflects this fluidity, often experimenting with characters that do not conform to traditional categories of identity. By presenting identities that are in flux, theater invites audiences to reconsider rigid categories of race, gender, sexuality, and nationality. This fluid representation challenges the binary thinking that historically divided societies, promoting an inclusive understanding of identity that aligns with the realities of a meta-society. The transformation of identity within these theatrical narratives helps audiences contemplate and embrace the multiplicity of identities that define modern life. Theater productions dealing with identity also serve as a bridge connecting local and global issues. By portraying narratives of identity struggles from various regions, theater reminds us of the universal nature of these conflicts, while highlighting the unique cultural dimensions that shape them. Such stories compel audiences to recognize that identity issues are not isolated. They're woven into the broader fabric of a meta-society where global and local dynamics continuously intersect. Theater and the digital meta-society. The digital realm has become a new stage for theater, extending its reach and impact. Online streaming of plays, virtual reality performances, and interactive digital theaters have introduced theater to a global audience, allowing diverse voices to resonate across borders. This digital meta-society has transformed how theater is produced, experienced, and discussed, making it a shared experience that transcends geographical limitations. Digital theaters also confronts identity issues unique to the digital age, such as online personas and virtual identity fluidity. Productions that tackle these themes, like I Play for the Living in a Time of Extinction by Miranda Rose Hall, which was designed for remote viewing, explore how digital life affects personal identity and relationships. In this way, theater continues to adapt, reflecting how identities are shaped not only in physical spaces, but also within the vast interconnected web of the digital meta-society. In an era marked by globalization, technological advancements, and shifting social paradigms, the exploration of identity has become a central theme in theatrical discourse. Thus, one of the most striking aspects of contemporary theater is its commitment to representing the full spectrum of human identities. From marginalized communities to our underrepresented voices, contemporary playwrights and artists strive to depict the richness and diversity of human experience on stage. Through inclusive casting, intersectional storytelling, and authentic representation, contemporary theater expands the boundaries of identity, challenging dominant narratives and amplifying voices that have historically been silenced or marginalized. In addition to celebrating diversity, contemporary theater also confronts the underlying power dynamics that shape identity. From issues of privilege and oppression to the impact of colonialism and globalization, theater artists interrogate the structures that govern identity formation and distribution. Through critical dialogue, provocative imagery, and subversive storytelling, contemporary theater challenges audiences to confront their complicity in systems of power and to imagine new possibilities for collective liberation. I will now refer to some of the most impactful productions in Europe and the United States over the past 2 years dealing with identity issues. I have made a very careful selection of only 7 indicative plays, since I believe that these represent all the spectrum of genres. I will briefly refer to them, and I will elaborate a bit more deeply on The Doctor, since I think it captures most aspects of this multifaceted issue in meta-society. Starting with Europe, Fairview by Jackie Siblis Drury. That was a production which was presented in the United Kingdom in London. It was staged in London last year and explores racial identity and prejudice through an unusual structure and provocative staging. Transverse orientation by our famous Greek choreographer Dimitris Papaioannou is another representative example. This performance focuses on the fluidity of identity through movement and imagery, developing allegories of nature and human existence. Papaioannou draws inspiration from Greek mythology to examine identity and the intricacies of personal and cultural heritage. We don't have so much time, but it's nice. This small video. Okay, I'll go on. Transverse The End of Eddie by Edward Lewis. This performance focuses on the fluidity of identity through movement and imagery, developing allegories of nature. The End of Eddie, based on the autobiographical novel of the same name. This play explores the sexual and social identity of a young person growing up in a conservative society, highlighting the challenges he faces due to his sexuality. And going to the United States and some examples drawn from the United States, Slave Play by Jeremy O. Harris, one of the most controversial shows on Broadway that explores racial relationships and the concept of intersectionality, aiming to expose and highlight the complex power dynamics and identity issues through provocative and often uncomfortable moments. Another one is A Strange Loop by Michael Jackson. This Pulitzer Prize-winning musical examines gender, racial, and sexual identity through the struggles of a young Black queer writer, and the performance tackles issues of self-worth and social acceptance in a harsh yet humorous way. Over by Antoinette Nouadou. This play was on Broadway last year and explores the experiences of young Black men in America, addressing issues of racial identity and the ongoing impact of discrimination and violence. And the last one, Heroes of the Fourth Turning by Will Arbery. This play explores religious and political identities as four friends from a conservative Catholic college discuss their philosophical and political beliefs, highlighting their conflicts on issues of faith, morality, and identity. All the above performances offer a complex and multidimensional view of the concept of identity, focusing on diverse perspectives and cultural contexts and contributing to the open discussion on diversity and the acceptance of various identities in contemporary societies. As I said in the beginning, one of the most representative examples of theater's role in exploring identity within a meta-society is Robert Icke's The Doctor, which delves into complex themes of religious and gender identity, autonomy, and ethical conflict. This approach disrupts preconceptions and asks viewers to engage with this essence of identity beyond visible labels, a concept increasingly relevant in our interconnected world. Robert Icke's The Doctor is a contemporary adaptation of Arthur Schnitzler's play, Professor Bernardi, that was written in 1912. Icke has transformed this work to reflect on pressing contemporary issues around identity, religious faith, and the ethics of medicine. The play is both a case study in ethical dilemmas and a profound exploration of identity, delving into how individuals and institutions navigate the often conflicted demands of personal identity, professional duty, and social morality. The Doctor centers on Dr. Ruth Wolf, Jewish physician and founder of a private medical institute specializing in Alzheimer's research. Her ethical conflict arises when a young girl suffering from sepsis is brought to her hospital, and Wolf decides to prevent a Catholic priest from administering last rites, believing it might distress the girl. This decision ignites a media storm, creating a clash between professional ethics, personal convictions, and social expectations. A significant theme in the play is the fluidity and conflict inherent in personal identity. Icke examines the intersections of gender, religion, race, and ethics by casting actors in roles that do not always align with their characters' racial or gender identities. This technique blurs boundaries and encourages audiences to confront their preconceptions, both about the characters on stage and the issues at hand. Through Wolf's identity as a Jewish atheist, Icke highlights how identities can become focal points for social judgment, especially when these identities are perceived to be in conflict with broader cultural or religious expectations. The heart of the play is its exploration of ethical decision-making in medicine and how this often conflicts with personal and social morals. Dr. Wolf's refusal to allow the priest to perform last rites raises questions about autonomy and the right to religious intervention in medical spaces. Ike avoids a simplistic portrayal, instead offering sophisticated perspectives on each character's motivations. Wolf's dedication to her patients is evident, yet her scientific worldview is juxtaposed with the priest's religious mission, revealing the complexities that arise when different worldviews collide. The media's role in the Doctor is crucial, as Wolf becomes a target of public scrutiny and social media criticism. This aspect of the play critiques how complex issues are often reduced to oversimplified narratives on the public sphere, leading to polarized responses. Ike uses this critique, cancel culture, and the pressures of social judgment, showing how public opinion can shape and sometimes distort the perception of truth and morality. Ike employs Brechtian techniques using minimalistic sets and the fluid casting to disrupt realism and encourage critical engagement. By having actors cast in non-traditional roles regarding race and gender, he compels the audience to focus on character motivations and ideological conflicts rather than physical identifiers. The Doctor ultimately serves as a mirror of contemporary society, examining how individuals navigate the complexities of identity, ethics, and social judgment. Ike's adaptation of Schnitzler's work highlights how these themes resonate in today's global, interconnected world, emphasizing the difficulty and often impossibility of satisfying every social and ethical demand. I wish that I have shed adequate light on one of the most important functions of contemporary theatre, that of addressing issues of identity. The plays I spoke about, I believe, map the theatrical activity on this topic in the Western world. And I singled out the Doctor since through its critical and thought-provoking narrative, it communicates most of those significant issues in a very condensed way. Thank you very much.
Dr. Ziropoulou, we thank you very much for your excellent presentation, quite impressive and informative. Probably we will have some questions by the end of the session.
Sure.
At the moment, if you can exit, please. At the moment, I think it's my turn to present you our work. Let me, if you can stop sharing.
Yes, sure. I just did it.
Fantastic. So I'm going to present our work, which is, can you please confirm you can see it clearly? Can you see it, please?
Yes, fine. Excellent.
So I'm quite honored to be here as a presenter in the Athens conferences for the last year, since last year. Our presentation, which is done with Mrs. Kalini Konstantina, who is a qualified kindergarten teacher specialized in inclusive education, has a very, let's say, updated title, The Importance of Gender Mainstreaming in Intercultural Education in Greece. As probably you know, since last year we have a specific law on the area with plenty of, let's say, extensions in education levels. Believe it or not, since the age of 10, we have several examples of people and students which want to be faced and, let's say, held in this area. As we know, Greek society has transformed into a multicultural one, creating a demand for the state to address this diversity in its political and institutional planning. At the moment, intercultural education is positioned as a way to address the educational mainly, social secondary, and then the cultural needs of diverse youth. Furthermore, integrating gender as a core element within intercultural education is essential to ensure that these diverse needs are met inclusively. Many efforts has been done. Many efforts has been done so far, and total this area. Most since 1996, we have our law 2413, who was established to support intercultural education, aiming to integrate Greek diverse population. However, adjustments to this law are necessary to keep pace with modern migration patterns and incorporate a stronger focus on gender dynamics. As you can see, plenty of efforts within the European Union have been done. These photos are from different conferences and workshops in 4 different countries: Italy, Spain, France, and Belgium, in the area of the inclusive education. And plenty of bibliography, and gender equality is one among the top goals of the OCCE. The current policies fail to adequately respond to Greek evolving social landscape, showing gaps to integration of gender and diversity, and this limits the effectiveness of intercultural education, as policies are not aligned with their contemporary needs. Furthermore, migration demographic in Greece have changed significantly the last years, with a notable increase from a migrant sending to a host country. These shifts underscore the need for gender-sensitive educational strategies that address the unique needs and experiences of migrant communities. The result is that at the moment we do have the legal background, but we don't have the educational background based on this legal background. Today, research on gender within migration studies in Europe has significantly influenced similar studies in our country as well. It emphasizes how the complex interplay of social identities shapes the experience of migrants. Recognizing that gender is a crucial factor, which always, or even better, most of the times, helps better understand and support migrant communities. Gender is a fundamental aspect of identity that intersects with other identity dimensions. Lastly, since 2022, we have nearly a 95% increase compared to 2021 in asylum seekers to Greece. This year, since last time, we have a 66% increase. This is a big challenge to us because we have to recognize gender role in intercultural education policies. If you go within Athens, in main Athens, in all the educational levels, primary and secondary, you can find plenty of different nationalities within. For example, in Central Athens, we have schools with 24, 21, 22 different nationality students, where Greek students are the minority. So it's something very urgent to focus. On the other hand, we have a research progress focusing on female migration in Greece, which has provided valuable data on gender-specific migration patterns. These findings underline the educational needs of migrant women and girls, highlighting the importance of gender-sensitive policies that address these unique challenges. Why they are challenges? Because we have to face their customs and morals from their country of origin. Furthermore, if we say that gender is an integral factor as an identity, then we have to see that there is a significant gap in teacher training regarding gender and intercultural awareness. People today have to address their relations and their behavior to people with different gaps between their communication and main problems arising. You probably be aware that the Ministry of Education has a platform with all bullying reports. Many of them, nearly 60% among all these cases, refer to gender problems, sexual orientation problems, and the bullying as a result is based on this as a cause. This is said. Let's see about the teacher training because I want to stay focused here. There is no systemic training. Teachers may struggle to fully understand the gender dynamics and play a crucial role in their diverse classrooms. Sometimes they feel limited in their ability to provide inclusive education to all students. When we speak for inclusive education, we don't speak only for the refugees or the other ethnicities. We speak for all kinds of problems arising in education level. Then we have a feedback from teachers and public officials has shown today that is a pressing need for gender-focused intercultural training. Participants identified gender mainstreaming as an essential component for creating inclusive educational policies that meet the needs of a student body. On the other hand, policy recommendations include integrating gender mainstreaming into educational policy and enhancing teacher training on gender diversity. Schools are encouraged to adopt more inclusive policy-making practices, enabling them to play a more active role in fostering an inclusive environment for all students. Concluding, and as key takeaways, integrating gender into intercultural education is crucial for effective migrant integration and supporting a multicultural society. To adapt to Greece's changing demographics, educational policies need to reflect both cultural diversity and gender inclusivity. For future efforts should focus on continuous research and practical training to promote gender-sensitive educational reforms. Thank you very much for your attention, and I will be glad to answer any questions at the end of this session. So we think we may proceed. So I'm calling on the floor Professor Mr. Dimitris Kosteletos. Mr. Kosteletos is an architect of the National Technical University of Athens. He is specific in conducting a range of architectural and planned urban projects of different uses, accompanied by appropriate publication. His efforts are focused to articulate a thorough speech which brings together different domains of creation, like art, science, psychic, and ordinary life. Mr. Kosteletos, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the invitation. Oedipus is the name for metamorphosis, I mean for man's metamorphosis, is the title of a short paper issue I'm going to articulate for today. Man, who lived close to nature and the proximity of gods as physical powers during the ancient eras, and who in Middle Ages faced the distance of an omnipresent and omnipotent and omniscient God, creator, beyond nature and physical powers, has recently focused on himself as a precious existent subject to free will, predetermined intentionality, thorough investigation, deep agony, and even more, to the foundations of anthropological agents or economy or language or unconscious. He has become himself the very question predestined to be overcome by his own products of artificial intelligence, unable to follow or manipulate the constant technological or ecological or nuclear flow. marked by a primordial inadequacy, deficit, fall, aporia, or ignorance that gives rise to numerous complicated needs, desires, hidden drives for survival, mere beliefs and thoughts. He explores the world and the means for its conquest. Man stands in himself, looking beyond itself. He endeavors to secure his well-being while simultaneously compromising it through the potential consequences of nuclear war or ecological collapse, leading to his own detriment. Finally, what is at stake is man himself, always looking for a salvation, a solution. Now, I have to change the scenery. The statement that technology is the new human destiny highlights the profound and continuous impact technology has on our lives. Indeed, technology is shaping our world at unprecedented rates, changing how we work, communicate, learn, and perceive ourselves and the world. From major advances in healthcare and education to social media and artificial intelligence has influenced every aspect of our existence. However, this view will be understood as usual in dual meaning. On one hand, technology opens incredible possibilities for improving our lives, making individuals more empowered and creative. On the other hand, there is the risk of losing control and touch with human nature if we become overly dependent on technology or allow it to fully dictate our future. It also raises ethical questions about the inequality that technological progress may create. Technology remains a human achievement anyway, therefore we have the ability to guide and redefine it somehow. It may be omnipresent, but the choice of how and when we use it depends on our priorities and values. So yes, we can manage it in a way, as long as we recognize it and make conscious choices. Just as we cannot stop breathing, but we can control the quality of the air we breathe, with technology, the key is some sort of responsibility and mindful use. If we were to talk now about the transformation of man, in which direction would it be? The transformation of humanity today, based on technological, social, and cultural developments, seems to be heading in two key directions: the enhancement of abilities through technology and the re-evaluation of humanity's relationship with nature itself. The first one, enhancement through technology, the superhuman. Technology now offers the possibilities for humans to surpass traditional physical and mental limits. The vision of transhumanism suggests that technology can improve our physical and cognitive abilities, even leading to a form of superhuman. Through biotechnology, artificial intelligence, implants, robotics, and digital upgrades, humans may become more resistant to disease, smarter, and stronger. The direction, of course, as usual, raises ethical questions. What does it mean to be human? Is our identity tied to our weaknesses and limitations? Could our digital and technological evolution alienate us from human nature or offer us new ways of self-fulfillment? Second, re-evaluation of the relationship with nature, the eco-human now. At the same time, there is either trend recognizing that technological progress has led to serious ecological crises and human inequalities. This direction concerns reconnecting with nature and seeking a more sustainable way of life. In this context, transformation could mean a human being who returns to balance with the environment, reducing consumerist tendencies and pursuing a more conscious spiritual way of life. This vision represents the direction towards the eco-human who sees oneself as part of the natural world, not its master. Such a person would pursue slower, more sustainable ways of living, minimizing harm to the environment and redefining relationships with societies and the planet. The future may include a balance between these two trends, with humans utilizing technology to improve their lives without losing their essential connection to nature and spirituality. The future transformation of humanity is a fascinating question that touches on many scientific, philosophical, and cosmological dimensions. There are various forces that seem capable of contributing to this transformation. First, technological transformation. Technology has already transformed the way we live, work, and communicate. I have already spoken on this. In the future, improvements in technology would lead to even more radical changes. Cyborgism, for example, is one possibility where human bodies are augmented with technological additions, such as implants, or to extend our physical and mental capabilities. The integration of humans and technology could create a new form of existence where humans surpass their natural limits. Second, transformation through AI, artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has the potential to drastically change human life. In a scenario where AI evolves to a level of super intelligence, human could either merge with AI or rely on it to manage vast amounts of data and knowledge. Such a future would mean an entirely new form of existence where human decisions and creativity are closely tied to AI computational power. Third is genetic transformation. Genetic modification through tools like CRISPR, this is cluster regularly interspaced short palindromic repeats, has the potential to change our very biology. Genome editing could lead to an enhanced human free from diseases with increased physical and mental capabilities. In more extreme scenarios, this power could create new forms of humans with characteristics we now consider as science fiction, such as extreme longevity or even modifications to perception and senses. Fourth is cosmological transformation. On a cosmological level, human existence is part of a vast, largely system. Theory suggests that migration to other planets or space exploration could bring about significant evolution. In the process of expanding into the universe, the conditions of life may radically change humanity both physically and mentally, allowing us to adapt to new environmental and physical laws. Interaction or integration with other forms of life in the universe could be the force that shapes our cosmological transformation. Fifth, philosophical and existential transformation. From a philosophical perspective, technological advancement, AI, genetics, and cosmological forces are driving us towards a new dimension of humanity where we will need to redefine the concepts of consciousness, first, identity, and ethics. Perhaps the greatest transformation will not be biological or technological, but existential, as we rethink what it means to be human and our place in the universe. Now, who is the dominant force? It is unclear which force will dominate. It is likely that the transformation of humanity will arise from a combination of these forces, where technology, artificial intelligence, genetics, and cosmological conditions will converge to bring about a new era of human existence. These developments will likely coexist with philosophical challenges, requiring humanity to confront questions of identity and purpose in a rapidly changing environment. The very concept of human nature may be radically redefined. This redefinition of the concept of consciousness, identity, and ethics in a future context, as described by the rapid technological and genetic advancements, involves fundamental changes in how we understand ourselves, the world, and our moral issues, our moral values. We can, let's lead more specifically at how these concepts might be redefined, but for instance, consciousness, we can speak of consciousness is the ability of a being to be aware of itself, is situated in his environment, has been at the core of philosophical debate for centuries. However, with the advance of artificial intelligence and neurotechnology, there is a need to reconsider what consciousness means. Consciousness I will speak in brief now. AI and consciousness, enhancement of human consciousness, ontological issues. Then we have identity. Identity, the sense of self or individuality, is directly linked to our perception of who we are. Technologies can change the physical and mental boundaries of humans, will pose new challenges for how we define our identity. So for short, I tell you the titles: Human and Machine Identity, Identity and Genetic Modification, Fluidity of Identity. Then we have ethics. Ethics, the system of values that guides human behavior. It's being questioned in an area where rapid technological advancements raise new moral dilemmas. Artificial intelligence, genetic modification, and the ability to intervene the human mind and body bring about radical changes of how we perceive ethics. Ethics of artificial intelligence, that means ethical framework or rules for AI decisions. Ethics of genetic modification, that means ethical limit in genetic and intervention, or ethics of expanded consciousness, that means moral responsibility. We are responsible for actions committed by an enhanced or uploaded self. We're responsible not only for ourself, but our expanded self. This will be the new idea. Conclusion to this is that the redefinition of consciousness, identity, and ethics will be necessary in a future where humans must manage new forms of existence and relationships with technology and science. These concepts will not disappear, but will expand and be reconsidered to address new dilemmas that arise from the capabilities of the future. Now I change the scenario. I go to what I started. All, I see my time, okay. All, I have 3 minutes, I think. All worlds, magical, mythical, religious, and scientific, technological, despite their differences, share common traits.
Mr. Kosteletos, please, we would like to have the timelines according to the program. So keep the timelines.
How many minutes I have?
1 more minute, please.
1 more. Okay, I say this. Man, under a perceptual metamorphosis, has to open to the world cosmos, both material and spiritual, that involves and surpasses what we call nature, God, and man, not as a coming back to nature, God, or man, but as a strong turn to physicality, sacredness, and friendliness, respectively. Who is this man of metamorphosis? He is a man of no land, no nature, no substance, a unity through multiplicity, limited as he is, aims for the unlimited, simultaneously whole and partial, broken for the very beginning, trying to overcome the habitual split into body, mind, ego, other, subject, object, person, persona, presence, absence, in, out of himself, conscious, unconscious. Born within the world, gives birth to the world. Oedipus is the mythical, remarkable exemplar of man's as the known enigma, wonder, a symbol that haunts us, ambiguously hovering above us, suspending upon the house of nothingness that frightens us, prone to error and failure. We consider Oedipus as the nomadic person of the Greek tragedy who solved the enigma and committed error, hubris, and misfortune to the community. On the other hand, Oedipus is the privileged exemplar of man's metamorphosis. He is the blind man with a clear seeing, a mere beggar who seeks for and receives hospitality, the former follower of fear and power that abandons everything and embraces death. Through surrendering, he reaches his own transformation. Thus, we consider Oedipus as the holy keeper of an enormous secret that shines through man's withdrawal. This is the crucial point, withdrawal, man's withdrawal. As Heraclitus spoke one day for nature's withdrawal, then we have God's withdrawal, and in Beckett's, for instance, play, now we have man's withdrawal. What does this man's withdrawal actually mean for what is coming as the new paradigm? Man and the modern anthropocentric view is not the final move in the cosmic game. Subject is not the authentic or actual topos or ground or starting point for our senses, thoughts, desires, drives, or actions. Man exists within space, being himself an in-between space, a threshold that shines for a certain amount of time, facing his fate under a light that does not belong to him. Nobody knows what is the real name or definition of man's nature. Perpetual metamorphosis under timing through clear opening is what remains for sure. Mytho-technological era is our new faith, our great new challenge. Beyond man means beyond meaning, unfolding through wandering. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kosteletos, for your presentation. And now I am very happy to welcome our last speaker for this session, who is a very well-known and very nice academic, Professor Spiros Vliamos. Professor Vliamos is an emeritus professor of political economy of the National Kapodistrian University of Athens. He is Dean of the School of Economics, Management and Informatics of Neapolis Paphos University. And today he is the president of the Academic Council of the Mediterranean College in Athens. Since 2020, he is a member of the Quality Assessment Committee of the preparatory procedure of the Hellenic Parliament. Professor Vliamos, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Thanks for this invitation. It's my honor. Although this session concerns the theological approaches, as you heard, I'm an economist. So I will talk about another more fashionable religion today, that is economics. I hope I will not disappoint those who admire the economic institutions, which are under perpetual metamorphosis, as the theme of this conference requires. However, I declare that I will be at their disposal for those who have objections and questions. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to start with a statement that is constantly repeated in the electronic and print press, but is still made by much of an academic world. Economics is in crisis today. I mean, economic science. Many believe that proof of this is its inability to predict and interpret the recent financial, or perhaps even worse, economic crisis with the traditional tools and assumptions offered by mainstream economics. Much more, it cannot lead to an exit from it with the tools the economic science proposes today. Even worse is the fact that many admit that economists are primarily responsible for leading us into this crisis, the worst of the last 70 years. But why not? Let's reflect on what we believed until now. Everything was in order and justified a complacent economic policy. Monetary and fiscal policy were perfectly effective in dealing with recessions, that is, reducing interest rates, increasing liquidity in the market, financing consumption by reducing taxes and or increasing public spending, etc., until the crisis broke out. If we accept that there was no any exogenous event that caused it, then we find that it was the culmination of a long course of specific policies and choices that have been dictated by economists. Is that true? We'll see. Many therefore blame the latter, that is economists, for the crisis in the sense that these economists form the grid of ideas in which the bankers, politicians, and executives of international organizations moved. And what is to blame for all that? Already from the time of the Scottish Enlightenment, the effort of intellectual philosophers was the application of philosophical principles in the area of social, therefore also economic phenomena, like those discovered by Newton about nature. But the formation of a scientific branch in the standards of the natural sciences imposes the extensive use of mathematical models, which in turn require drastic simplifications. And these simplifications, as Professor John Robinson of Cambridge will tell us below later, lead to intellectual sterility and difficulty understanding the real economy. But let's take things in order. Of course, we all accept that social theories are the result of some ideological or political bias, as well as a product of the era in which the person who first formulated them lived. In other words, the basic elements of any social theory, therefore economic, are ideology and history. These elements have caused the production of contradictory theories and approaches, which, however, have been necessary on the one hand for the progress of specific scientific thought, and on the other hand for approaching the understanding of real problems. But an important problem that arises here is that in the course of his thinking and action, the social scientist must make an effort to maintain a sufficient distance between himself and the object of his study. How easy is this for the field of social sciences? In an older article I recently read written by Professor Michael Zouboulakis of Thessaly University, I read the following. The dominant conception in economics, that is, that which establishes and defines Homo economicus, considers that reference to the social context of economic theories is of little importance, since they merely aspire to describe only the general principles governing economic phenomena. The more general a theory is, the less it is bound by the social frame of reference, so the less it needs history. If, however, economic theory is not just a logical construct, but with internal coherence, but the prelude of all economic action, the problem of historical relativity is always a critical issue. And here is emphasized the return of history to the center of interest of economic theory. But what is the recent development in economic thought? Before World War II, the neoclassical theory played the role of scientific ideology concerning the functioning of Western economies. Those economists who followed this theory dealt with human behavior by accepting that the individual seeks to maximize his interests according to his beliefs, formulating the theory of rational choice. That is, people use the information available to them to make rational predictions, and so they arrive at a rational decision based on these rational predictions. But I have the impression that very few times and very few people process the information they know through rational thinking. But even when they process them, they may not act rationally. They usually act on what they think the truth is. I think this is the first and most important of the simplifications required for the scientification of economic thought. Nobel laureate George Akerlof and Professor Robert Shiller, in their book entitled Animal Spirits, consider that if people were completely rational, there would be no recessions and crises, so the rational model is inadequate. In 1932, Cambridge professor John Robinson wrote the small book entitled Economics as a Serious Subject, the apologia of an economist to the mathematician, the scientist, and the plain man, where she deals with the ideological and subjective elements that should be contained in economic thought. After World War II came the Keynesian policy, which, in my opinion, saved economics from complete obsolescence. In his general theory in 1936, Keynes described how efficient governments could borrow and spend and thus put the unemployed back to work. Professors Akerlof and Shiller claim that it was only after the end of the Great Depression, 1929 to 1933, that economists began to provide clear guidance to politicians, and thus they got away with it. This recipe became the model to such an extent that it was adopted by many countries of the world, and even in some of them it was incorporated into their legislation, as for example the Labor Act of 1946 in the USA, which provided that the maintenance of full employment was the responsibility of the federal government. And these policies generally worked well, almost everywhere throughout the post-war period. Before the publication of the general theory, of Keynes's general theory, the general belief was that the world had been doing very well until then, and that private markets would spontaneously and without any intervention provide full employment with a balanced budget and minimal government regulation. So the operation of the economic system seemed to be simpler and a bit automatic, and therefore the economic theory free of unnecessary non-quantifiable variables could be formulated through mathematical models that would give it a more scientific tone. Despite the success of Keynesianism in the 50s, the age of great neoclassical proofs, as some people have called this period, called the romance of economists with the new mathematical tools of neoclassical economics. But big names with significant contributions to the development of economic thought, such as Kenneth Arrow and Gerard Debreu, creators of the three theorems of social welfare, and Professor John Nash, creator of the game theory, admitted that from a practical point of view, the value of these mathematical tools was vague, and their theory is logical, completely disconnected from its interpretations. Moreover, John Robinson, in the small but very important book of economic philosophy, published in 1962, concludes that economic theory must always be accompanied by some moral and political ideology and turn against its modern excessive mathematization, considering that mathematical analysis of the general economic balance resembles the altar of Moloch, where intellectual human resources are sacrificed. As Professor Frank Hahn wrote much later, the application of mathematical models to the real world is at best approximate or conditional. And although what we have done is not useless, it contributes little to our understanding of real economies. So, saying all this, should we also ask the question, which has already been asked by Anatol Kaletsky in his article, Goodbye Homo Economicus, published in 2009 in the review, which had a very informal title, Real World Economics, it was his name. Was Adam Smith an economist? Was Keynes an economist? Or Ricardo? Or Schumpeter? The answer is that by today's academic standards, the answer is no, because they didn't produce any mathematical model. Their work lacked the analytical rigor and precise deductive reasoning required by modern economics. And none of them ever produced econometric forecasts, although Keynes and Schumpeter were very capable mathematicians. Excuse me. In the late 60s, the Keynesian miracle began to wane, and around the 70s, complex mathematical equilibrium theorems came back into vogue in good university economics departments. The rest of the years until today, the mathematical theorems of the neoclassics, with an eminently apolitical approach, dominated because, in my opinion, the collapse of the ideologies at the beginning of the 90s also took place. Let's not forget the Berlin Wall. And these theorems, as they were non-temporal and non-spatial, ended up in dead ends, disappointing societies and individuals. In fact, the phenomenon has been observed. Many leading economists turn with strong criticism against their own science. Professor Alan Kierman, in his book, The Emperor is Naked, published in 1989, for example, presented economists as captains who do not care if their ship is ready to bat. Nobel laureate Joseph Stiglitz, in his article in the Guardian newspaper in December of 2002, wrote the following: gloomy situation prevails in the Department of Economic Sciences. Economic theory obscures rather than illuminates major economic problems. There is no invisible hand. People do not behave as rationalists. Then why do economists stick to the rational expectations hypothesis? Some economists in France, Britain, USA, Latin America, and Australia spoke with vigor about economic autism. They even created a website entitled Post-Statistic Economics and proceeded to publish a scientific journal with the eloquent title Real World Economic Review, meaning that the real world is not how the economic theory describes. Still others present economics as a set of dogmatic views, accepting that economics is reminiscent of the theology of the Middle Ages. We repeat the same sermon over and over again, each time in a more complicated way, but never with a critical eye.
Professor Vliamos, 2 more minutes, please.
Okay, thank you. I'll stick in my time. And so, after all this said, the question is, and which demands an urgent answer, is whether Homo economicus is no longer alive at the economic departments in the universities. I have an answer for this. Human nature is mysterious. Social scientists, in their efforts to analyze and study individual action and behavior, always point out great differences between individuals. This is also the reason why most of the time they approach the subject through collectivities and collective schemes of individual behavior and have developed methods that attempt to address the issue often through unsystematic and or ad hoc assumptions. Of course, each social science has developed different approaches to dealing with individual actions, and this means that every time a solution to a specific problem is proposed, this solution is only a partial one. This is because human behavior is determined by a complex of parameters, and therefore a comprehensive solution is provided only by using all available information concerning human actions. The progress achieved in the social sciences, economics, political sciences, sociology, and psychology is due, according to some, to the use of the method of individualism, which has often led to a successful explanation of social phenomena. Joseph Schumpeter in 1908 referred to the doctrine dealing with social analysis and the individual and called it methodological monism. Much later, in 1984, the Nobel laureate Kenneth Arrow claimed that the individual in an economy or society is like the atom in chemistry. Anything that happens can be described and attributed solely to the people involved, meaning that all social processes are ultimately processes between individuals, and individuals act within a context determined by the actions of others, as well as other factors such as ability or wealth. Mr. Chairman, I would like to stop here, although I have some more pages to read, but I don't want to
Apologize, Professor Vliamos, but the time limit is very strict.
I know. Thank you very much anyway. Thank you very much all of you.
We thank you very much for your nice presentation.
Thank you.
Everybody, I believe, is very happy with what you have shared with us. Before closing this session, I would like to ask if there is any question for the speakers of the session. Something to ask, something to clarify. I don't see something in the Q&A session, so.
Yes, hello, my name is Lana Kyriopoulos. I would like to ask something about the metamorphosis. Despite the fact that we have the biological factor, can we feel in real life the metamorphosis, and can we, let's say, categorize it in stages? The answer I will get from Mr. Kostaletos Dimitris.
What is the question? If there are stages? Can you repeat your question, please? Are you hearing me? I don't hear you.
Sound was not very clear.
Yes?
Sorry, maybe it's a technical issue.
Yes. What is your...
Give me
I
a
didn't hear
second to
you.
put my...
Your question, yes. Just repeat shortly your question so I can understand.
Okay. In a biological form of life, we face several types of metamorphosis, correct? Mr. Kostaletos?
Yes, yes. Yes, so?
Maybe, okay, so what about in other
Yes. I don't hear you at all.
sorry, can you hear me or not? It's a technical issue then.
I say something I didn't say in my speech. I say something maybe, look, the challenge of assuming the world beyond the natural, divine, human, historical, or social realms, which is the new challenge of man's metamorphosis, cannot be accomplished by man alone. This is the point for me. Relying solely on himself, he needs the support of forces that encompass him and even surpass him through risks. The place of the subject is not the point from which passions, thoughts, and actions are exercised by man as the great wonder, as Sophocles called him. So we need support to overcome ourselves. And so we create the new extended self. And this is a challenge. This is the challenge. This is our fate for me. And this has to do with all areas: technology, artificial intelligence, genetics, and cosmological space. All these. We have to open to the world, but the world, both material and spiritual, as I said. No more divisions, spiritual, material, in, out, conscious, unconscious. So we have overcome these dilemmas or these antitheses and apply to accept what is the support that technology has to offer us. So it can open us to the world, to the new idea of the world, and this means an idea of a man, and this also means a man's withdrawal in some sense for me. Man has to withdraw. It's better for him to withdraw in some sense. This is what I said. I don't know. I don't know if I'm clear. But I can't hear you anyway.
Any more questions, please?
Mr. Chairman, can I add a few things on behalf of the social sciences to the?
Yes, please.
Yes. I think that the human metamorphosis is not only biological, must not interpret it through the biological point of view. I think that there are other metamorphoses also which concern the human being. In a society, the metamorphosis becomes a reality through several institutions. And what is an institution in society? We call it, in my studies, I call an institution a humanly devised constraint which shape initiatives for human exchange, either it is political, social, or economic. That is a new ideas, the creation of new ideas, new habits, new knowledge, new parts of the science. So that brings also a metamorphosis to the human being. It's not only biological. So, and I think that the title of this conference, which is personally, is a perpetual metamorphosis, is not only the biological metamorphosis, but also the change of ideas and the change of actions, the change of society through those institutions and new ideas. This is my opinion. I don't know if I have satisfied our friend's question, but this is what I think. Thank you.
We thank you very much, Professor Vliamos. Hopefully, we have reached to the end of our session today. It was a great honor to me to be among such accomplished individuals and being able to present the session. And I wish every one of you all the best, all your targets to be accomplished, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Just a moment, please. Just a moment. I would like to ask something, Mrs. Christina Anagnostopoulou and Mr. Panos Gavalas. Panos Gavalas, you are with us?
No, not anymore.
Yes,
I am.
you are with us.
Yes, I am.
First,
Of course I am.
just very shortly, Mrs. Christina Anagnostopoulou, can you see a kind of synergy between your projects and the job of Professor Economidis? I don't know if you attend the speech, the presentation of Professor Economidis, but I see a connection with your projects.
Yes.
I mean, you can enhance and enrich your projects through the job of Professor Economidis.
Yes,
Just a
I'm
comment.
sorry, but I, as you noticed, I haven't followed the presentation from Mr. Economidis. But of course, we would be happy to support any type of synergies that could come out from our efforts and our common works.
Okay.
We are
Okay.
a research institute, and of course, this is the core of our research in terms of like collaborating and cross-cutting sectors.
Okay, thank you. And just a question for Panos Gavalas, taking into account the presentation of Dr. Michailidis. Do you believe, Panos, that the LLM models could be trained in a better way and produce more qualitative products through the use of poetry?
To be frank with you, LLMs are up
to the stage as we speak where they get to resemble, how should I say it, human context, and they tend to analyze and follow whatever we say. So that's the way they mainly work. They follow on our ideas and enhance our ideas, hence creating a conversation which is biased by whatever starting point we set. Now, for the time being, we do have a few strong LLMs publicly available, namely Copilot, where else is there? Perplexity AI and Google's efforts, BERT as well. As they mature, they will be taking into account human sentiment and more context. So in the future, yes, they will be able to understand allegoric meanings, and they will be able to understand the context of poetry. In order to do that, because poetry is very is a very sensitive type and a very special type of expression, we need to keep feeding them. And up to now, I'm not very sure whether they have access to poetry and the semantics of poems. We need to help them as we do with whatever data we feed them, and we need to have projects dedicated to poetry in order to have the optimal result. Under these conditions, the answer is yes. Poetry is a very mature and sensitive way of the human expression, and we need to have LLMs being fed poetic poems and poetic material. That's my view.
Okay, thanks for your answer. I would like to just to add that yesterday we published an article regarding the artificial superintelligence and the supernatural intelligence. So there are two fields. The big companies are working on this, and I suppose that poetry and theater roles would be a very good contribution to the development of these two kinds of new, let's say, kinds of artificial intelligence.
As I said, let me just, as I said, when we feed LLMs and when we feed special expressions of human beings, we need to make them understand what the contextual parts of this expression are, so they won't go word by word. Because poetry has a lot of allegoric meanings and expressions, and it does not follow the colloquial, as we say, or the ordinary life or even scientific type of expression. It's a special type of expression that's usually used in poetry, and we need to teach LLMs how to understand this type of expression, and we need to do it on a parallel basis as we feed them poems. We need to make them understand what the poet meant, and we need to make them understand all these allegoric meanings behind them. Under these circumstances, yes. But strictly speaking about LLMs, about large language models, they need a lot of help. And let's just realize at this point that LLMs are narrow intelligence and they're far behind, and they're not even on the same path of generic intelligence. That's another thing.
Okay, thank you very much. Professor Kalokerinos, is there any comment by your side?
I think not at the moment. We should go on.
Okay. So thanks all the people, all the professors, all the moderators for their job. And now we'll have a break until 14:30. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Have a good day.